Christian Cullen is the greatest fullback to ever play the game. Coming out of Kapiti College, he played 60 tests for the All Blacks from 1996 to 2002. And at the time of his retirement, he was the All Blacks all-time leading try scorer.
He played 85 games for the Hurricanes, scoring 56 tries. He played for Horowhenua, Manawatu, Central Vikings, and Wellington, scoring over 150 first-class tries. He won an MPC title with Wellington in the year 2000, a long time ago now, and a Commonwealth Games gold medal with the New Zealand Sevens team in 1998. He also played for the Māori All Blacks.
He played 44 games for the Irish club Munster before retiring and returning home to New Zealand. He now lives in the Kapiti Coast region, where he heads a property business and does some Sky Rugby commentary on the side. Welcome to the show, Christian Cullen.
Thanks, lads. How are you all going?
Yeah, not too bad down here. I think last time we caught up was up in Napier, Hurricanes versus the Sunwolves. Pretty good outcome for the Hurricanes that day.
Yeah, it was. It was always fun commentating with the mighty Ken Laban. He's always a good bit of fun, especially when there's plenty of tries scored. It always makes the commentating a bit easier.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Hey, Christian, you were born in Parapara Umu, but you grew up in Paekakariki, just north of Wellington, with your sister Anita and your brother Shane. What were some of your early childhood memories growing up in Paekakariki?
Oh, look, I mean, playing down the backyard. We had a bit of a big backyard down the back, so playing the one-on-one with the brother, and always getting beaten up and going up and crying to mum that the brother was too hard. Mate, working on the back of the milk truck, delivering pamphlets, trying to make money, all this sort of stuff. Going out after school down to the local park, Campbell Park, and kicking the ball around. And I mean, it probably wouldn't happen today, and I probably wouldn't say it to my kids, but, we used to get the, be back before dark sort of thing, or before dinner. So I mean, all sorts. I mean, we were pretty lucky then. Paekak was a nice little small community, and we had the beach there, and mate, we'd be out surfing or down the tennis club, or at the school playing cricket, or down Campbell Park doing the rugby stuff. Up Mackay's Crossing on our BMXs. So we had a pretty cool upbringing as kids, and there's a few of us floating around Paekak at the time. So plenty of us, having a bit of fun.
So your dad, Chris, and your mum, Trish, can you just share a little bit more about them, what you've learned from them both, and the values that they've installed in you?
Oh, just hard work, I mean, they're still doing it now, well into their 60s now, and just the work ethic. They still deliver the Dominion. I don't know if it's called Dominion Post now, but the Dominion paper sort of in the morning. So they're up at 3-4 in the morning, sort of driving around Pukera Bay, Paekak, and Pram, delivering the paper. So that they've done that from I can remember it when I was a young fella. So I think it's just the work ethic. The old man coached us right through the junior grades as well. Worked at Ashley Wallpapers down in Paerua. So when we got to a certain age, we actually played for Parramatta Plym juniors. So would catch the train down after school from Paekak to Parramatta, get off the train station, and he'd come out from Paerua, the Ashleys, and coach us. So we only ever once missed the train, and we never did it again because we got punished.
Hey, you were the College Sport Rugby Player of the Year in 1993, playing for Kapiti College First 15, and then went on to play for New Zealand Schools and New Zealand Under-19s team. Who were some of the big names that played with you in these teams?
I mean, that was pretty interesting times for me. Like Kapiti College, we weren't really a big rugby school. We were a first 15, and we were playing sort of second 15 teams, sort of that Wellington region. So, and we struggled even with that. So for whatever reason, you get sort of picked up and you go into that New Zealand environment, and you kind of realise pretty quickly, there's some pretty good players here. You've got to, that's when you learn, well, you've got to do a bit more work. And I think I sat on the bench, for the first year in New Zealand schools. Carlos Spence were there, Carlton Arna, Brad Fleming. It's stretching the memory back now because that was a long time ago. I think a guy, Matty Carrington, was playing, and he was the fullback at the time. So I sat on the bench and watched, and just a massive learning curve. And I think from that point, you sort of realise the little Kapiti area were pretty small. When you're thinking about the whole of New Zealand, there's there's a lot of kids out there that want it probably just as bad as you and are willing to work just as hard. So yeah, I learned from a pretty early age, mate. You got to work hard if you want things.
Yeah. So when you left Kapiti College, you joined your local Paraparaumu rugby club and played for Horowhenua in the NPC. But a guy by the name of Brian Toki and your former New Zealand under-19s and Hurricanes coach, Frank Oliver, were a big part of your move to Manawatu. Can you tell us a little bit more about these two and the opportunities they gave you early in your career?
Yeah, well, I went back to college in as a second year seventh, not for the schoolwork. I went back because we were having New Zealand schools were having, I think, a tour. I think it was either UK or Japan, and then halfway through the year they changed the age. You know, I was outside of the age bracket, so I actually left halfway through the year. And I was just doing sort of odd jobs around, working for. I was a stop-go man at some stage for Ford and Hogan on the bloody on the roads, and worked in a bottle store, and then played for Manawatu that year. Then after played for Horowhenua that year. Then after that year, Brian Toki came down and just asked me, what I was up to, and had a bit of a thing up in Manawatu. Come and play for Kieto, which was his club, and he was coaching, and I'd get an RDO job with Manawatu and go around the schools and do the RDO job. So yeah, I mean, was it a big decision? I suppose it was, because I was only young, and sort of living at home, you were pretty settled and looked after. And I think I was here 17, 18, and then had to move out of home and move up and get looked after by somebody else, or live in someone else's house. So I was quite homesick, I reckon, for that first 6 months. I was coming home every weekend, but gutsed it out and got through it. And yeah, so Brian Toki was good. He was out Linton Army Camp. He was the head fitness guy there. So I spent a bit of time out there with some of the boys at Kieto that were in the army, and training at their facilities and all that sort of stuff. So got looked after pretty well. And then Frank was there. He was my first the under-19s, New Zealand under-19s coach. So obviously it was pretty cool that he was up around that Manawatu area as well. He's just old school. Doesn't mince his words, straight up, and it was straight black and white with him. Yeah. So yeah, the good thing about him was he was a Ford coach, so he didn't really deal with us back. So we didn't get some of his when he got stuck into the Fords, you sort of didn't want to be around. You stayed well out the back.
Hey, so back in 1996, Christian, it was the first year of professional rugby, and it was a huge year for you, playing for the Hurricanes, New Zealand Sevens, and the All Blacks for the very first time, scoring tries all over the paddock. Can you talk us through some of those special moments in that first year back in 96?
Oh, that was all pretty exciting. It sort of happened after 95, right, with the World Cup in South Africa, and there was that the other league that some of the other guys in other countries may have signed to go with. I think, was it Murdoch or one of those? So I always remember I was in Manawatu, and Rushy was going around the country with the NZRFU. I think it was with Jock Hobbs, signing up all the young players and getting pen on paper to sign for NZRFU. So I remember him coming to meet him at the Manawatu airport, and they put a contract in front of me, which I was like, I was getting $300 a week, being an RDO for Manawatu Rugby, and then all of a sudden, they throw a bit of a contract in front of me, and I was like, yeah, man, I'll sign that. So yeah, then obviously, and then as it happened, that competition didn't kick off, the Rebel comp. So then 96 was start of Super Rugby and the All Black stuff for me. But it goes back to, I guess, 95, playing sevens with those boys, 95 was an eye-opener, man. Like, Jonah, Rushy, Dallas Seymour, some of the big guys in New Zealand sevens sort of rugby, going to Hong Kong was unbelievable. So yeah, 96 was a cool year, because we went to Hong Kong pretty early. Got part of the tournament there, and then come back. Super Rugby was all cool and exciting. We didn't win too many games in that sort of season, but then got picked up and played for the All Blacks for the first time in 96. So it was a big year, pretty exciting, pretty new. Learned a lot, but I guess we always say, we're probably still going through that amateur, sort of going into professional. So yeah, it was was a pretty cool and fun year. I mean, first time obviously going over to South Africa to play over there, so that was a massive eye opener. So you see a lot, yeah. I mean, a lot of new things, man. In '96, it was cool.
So we ask every guest this. What do you remember most about your first test in the black jersey? It was against Samoa at Napier in '96. What were your memories before the game, during, and afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough week, because I twinged my calf at the start of the week, so I wasn't too sure if I was going to play at all. So John Hart pretty much gave me right up to the sort of Saturday morning to get right. So I think I did it like on Wednesday. So they flew Adrian Cashmore down to be on standby that week. So I just remember pretty much from Thursday onwards, I was waking up like every 3 or 4 hours, icing the calf, just taking it easy, trying to get it right. And then I remember Saturday morning going out and doing a fitness test down the local park, and ran out a few strides, and man, the calf was really sore. And then I come back, and I think the Doc Mayhew and Abercrombie, our physio, how's it feel? And I said, oh man, it feels really good. And then got back, and that was in the morning, and then I knew, okay, so I've got all day just to ice, and just hopefully it comes right by I think whatever it was, 7:30 kickoff. And it was still sore when I got to the ground. And then honestly, I don't know what it was, but I don't know, adrenaline or whatever, as soon as I ran out onto the park, like it just went away. So I don't know, but it was, yeah, so I had the calf, and then obviously you have the nerves of playing your first test. And I just remember being in the change room, and man, just looking around the changing shed, and geez, Fitzpatrick, Zinni and Robin Brooke and Ian Jones and Mertens and Jeff Wilson, Jonah. It was like, I can't remember everyone warming up, to be fair. I think probably the most nervous thing though, mate, was I think once it's doing the haka for the first time, and I think once the haka was done, and okay, now we can get into it. So I mean, yeah, got pretty lucky. Got smashed a couple of times by the chiropractor, Brian Lima. Quick scored 3 tries, so I mean it was a pretty good start. But yeah, I mean, hey, it's playing in a pretty good side then. There's pretty much a side from the '95 World Cup. So there's some pretty special players sort of floating around in that group.
You played 85 games for the Hurricanes from '96 to 2003, scoring 56 tries, and you played along some of the greats such as Tana Umaga, Jonah Lomu, and helped develop the famous Hurricane style of attacking footy. Tell us about some of your enjoyable moments playing for the Hurricanes back then, Christian.
Yeah, well, once again, pretty lucky. I think, especially at fullback, and always say, you have the best seat in the house, sitting behind me, you talk like Tana and Jonah and Alama, and yeah, I mean, I think of those early years, I think we played like that. I mean, we're all had that same mentality, but we played like that because sometimes we wouldn't get a lot of ball, and so with the ball we did get, we just had to go. Yeah, so I mean, obviously touring with your mates and all that was pretty cool. It would have been nice to win more games, but I don't know, when you sit back, mate, and you think about it now, and the guys you played with, I remember sitting back and watch you sitting behind Jonah, and I mean, I had it on the sevens field, which I just hate to play against Jonah on the sevens field, but 15s was pretty cool, because when you got on the ball and you just follow, and you just knew, 2, 3, 4 players would be on him, and if you ran a pretty good support line, you'd get some easy tries. So playing behind those guys, guys like Jason O'Halloran as well, pretty unsung heroes, just nice and solid. Alama was there. We usually had pretty steady, but not, I mean, they were good players like David Holwell, first 5, John Preston filled in a few times, but they weren't the big flashy guys, big running first 5s, but they knew they had a lot of attacking sort of flair outside them, but so it just gave us the ball. So, I mean, yeah, hey, we always want to win more, and it would have been nice to win a Super Rugby title. But as you say, man, we love the style we played. We just never quite got there.
So, who are some of your closest mates at the Hurricanes, and do you still keep in touch with them now?
Yeah, you do. Like guys like Alama and Tana, and we're pretty close to Jason Spice and David Holwell. Sort of lived with me when we were in Wellington, for a while when he first came down from Northland. So, I mean, mate, seriously, because you're so tight, and when you're travelling and training, and and playing with each other all the time in a rugby sense, you know, when you're in the rugby bubble, that, you know, they are your mates, because obviously your other mates outside of that are either working, they're out the weekend, you know, it's all. But when you retire from rugby, you know, guys go all their separate ways. They go back to their wherever they come from or live, and, you know, Tana's in Auckland, Alama's in Auckland now, you know, Spicy's, you know, Tauranga. So you kind of find a new sort of friends, a new group of friends for this period of life. But whenever you go to a certain place, like I was in Auckland yesterday and bumped into Alama at a restaurant, and, you know, and it's still the same as what it was 10 years ago, but, you know, you might not see him for 10 years. Went to Hong Kong and bumped into Fitzy, and I hadn't seen him, since he left New Zealand in 98. And it was just like it was yesterday. So those rugby mates are always going to be there, but when you finish, you just sort of, you create a whole new sort of friends. Like a lot of my mates now are all older than me. They're all sort of local business guys, but they're all into their golf and the tennis, and so you just sort of you just follow them, really. A lot of the rugby mates are all over the country. There's only one guy that I used to play with that lives in my area now, a guy Paul Steinmetz.
Oh yeah.
You know, so that's the only guy that lives in my area. So it is what it is. But I think as blokes, hey, you don't need to ring each other every day. I don't think we're not like women, hey. Like, so we, you know, you might, as I said, you might not see someone for a long time, but when you see them, it's like, you know, it's like it was when you were playing. So it's all good.
Hey, back in '97, you played for the Central Vikings in the NPC Second Division, which was a merger of Hawke's Bay and the Manawatu rugby unions. What was it like playing for a short-lived team? And why do you think that merger failed?
It was just tough. Like, we trained in Waipak, so that was, I don't know what that was, an hour 40 from Palmerston North, and so, you know, whatever, half of us were there and the other half were in Hawke's Bay, and they came down, and they're two pretty proud unions, eh? So it was just hard. And I mean, I think their first year we made it into the final, and then we before the final that week, I think we were playing Northern up in Whangarei, and that week we were pretty much told that even if we won it, we couldn't go up to the first division because whatever it was, a financial thing or something. So yeah, half of us said, okay, no, let's not go. The other half said, oh no, we'll go up and we'll show them. So when we got there, you know, we kind of weren't really, our hearts weren't really in it, and Northern ended up smashing us in that game. So, I mean, it was just tough. I just think Hawke's Bay were Hawke's Bay, and Manawatu were Manawatu. I mean, I went to Munster, and Munster, half the guys lived in Cork and half the guys lived in Limerick. And so it was kind of a similar, it was like an hour and a half drive to get to either city or town, but they've been doing it since day one. That's just all they knew. So the players, that was, you know, they didn't know any better, so they just did it, and they based their main games out of Limerick, and then the other games will come down to Cork. So yeah, trying to amalgamate those two unions was just tough, and I don't think they could get the jerseys either. You know, the green and white and black just doesn't quite go. I don't know how they got whatever it was, orange and blue. I don't know.
So in 1998, those legends that you mentioned before from that 95 World Cup team, Fitzy, Zinzan, they all moved on. It was a bittersweet year for the team. You were part of the All Blacks team that lost the record 5 tests in a row, but you were a part of the New Zealand Sevens team that won gold at the Kuala Lumpur Commonwealth Games. Can you talk us through the highs and the lows of that 98 season?
Yeah, I guess you kind of said, I mean, these days, you know, they prepare for that sort of stuff, you know, when guys are sort of working on their way out, so they'll prepare. But I think back then you didn't. Like, guys just played until you could play no longer, and there was no sort of real backup plan. There's guys in the wings, but, geez, mate, you look at like Fitzy, how many tests he played. Norm Hewitt sat on the bench he had 50-odd tests, and all of those, or whatever they were, coming off the bench. So you just played until you couldn't play no more. I think it's cool how they do it now, because, you know, if one guy goes out or gets injured, there's always that next guy that's had 15 or so tests. He's not necessarily a starter, but he's ready, you know. So that year, I think we lost 5 of the main senior guys. I can't remember who they were, but, you know, 5 of them. And a lot of those games, man, seriously, like we were there. We just, you know, you just couldn't get them over the line. But I mean, 5 in a row. So I mean, I guess the silver lining for me out of that was after that I did go to Kuala Lumpur for the Commonwealth Games, so you could kind of forget about those losses and get over there. And hey, man, that was pretty exciting, going into the village. And we got there early. I suppose the only bummer for us was our tournament was the first 3 days of that Commonwealth Games, so we were pretty much in and then we were pretty much out. So we played the first 3 days and we won the tournament, and it would have been cool to stay and watch the athletics and some of the other Kiwi teams sort of getting amongst it, but we had to come home. There's only a few guys that stayed on. I think Dallas, Jonah, and someone else stayed on, and they got in trouble because they went. Obviously, Dallas was with Julie Seymour, the netballer, and they got caught at the netball, and they were meant to be back in New Zealand playing NPC. So we got home and they stayed over, but they got into trouble. So we were pretty much straight back after that and into NPC. But it would have been cool, man, to stay there for 2 weeks and just and suck it all in. But we're in the food hall, and you'd walking out, man. Guys like the cricket guys, Viv Richards, walking in. All these guys you used to watch on telly. So that's probably the one thing we missed out. We just weren't there long enough. At
the 1999 Rugby World Cup, All Blacks coach John Hart moved you from fullback to centre, and with the French upsetting the All Blacks in the semi-finals, how much did you learn as a player and as a person from that unfortunate failed World Cup campaign?
Yeah, that was tough. I suppose when you're young and you're like that, I suppose players start now, like, you just do whatever's best for the team and you just want to play and get on. Hindsight's a great thing, eh? I probably should have said, no, I want to play fullback. If I'm not the best fullback, then, you can start somebody else there. It's ironic, and, Tana ended up being one of the best centres in the world, and he played wing. And so, I don't know, there's lots of ifs and buts and what ifs and all that sort of stuff. But it is what it is. We played that French side that day. I don't think any team would have beaten them that day. For whatever it is, that 40-minute period, they just could do no wrong. Got every bounce of the ball. I think as a player, I suppose you got to learn what it's like, to get beaten like that. In a big tournament, you don't get many chances. Like, I only went to one World Cup, so. It's about taking all your opportunities, and it's probably one that we let slip away because it was there. We could have, we got a pretty good lead on the French, but the French being the French, that's what they do. And as history tells us, it happened. I don't think we may be in the first, but we definitely weren't the last, because it happened again. And I'm sure at some point again, before we die, it'll probably happen again at some stage. But yeah, it's just about taking your opportunities, eh? And those tournaments, that just shows you how hard I think World Cups are to win. New Zealand being the best team in the world for a long, long time, for a lot of the years. But it's just that one every 4 years. And there's teams that, if they get it right on their day, they can beat those number one teams. They won't do it every time. 9 out of 10 times they won't. But that one time, if you're not on, you get beaten. It's bloody hard to win.
So in 2000, you were a part of the Wellington team that famously beat Canterbury 34-29 in the final to win a very rare NPC title. Wellington are due an NPC title every 20 years or so. It's been 20 years since then. But can you talk us through your memories of that match in particular, that final?
Yeah. It was quite a tough year, for us. We started off really badly. I think we lost 3 in a row, and I think we were trying to play a Canterbury style, like we were trying to play, 3, 4, 5 phases ahead, and we had forwards that we couldn't do that. All they wanted to do was hit rucks, Tyson Edwards and Norm Hewitt and blokes like that. We didn't want to. We were trying to overcomplicate it, and that just wasn't our team, eh? So we had a meeting. I think it was about 3 or 4 games in. But just a big team meeting, no coaches, and basically said that. We said, man, we need to change the way we're playing, because this is not us. We can't play like Canterbury. So that's what we did. We just went back to ruck and run, hit rucks and go. And then we just had a really good run. I think we had to go to Auckland and play them in the semi. And then obviously down to Canterbury for the final. We were, I guess, written off. But yeah, we've had some really good games against Canterbury. Referees and everything against us and penalising and trying to get them in the game, and just managed to do it. So yeah, as I say, man, it's pretty cool winning titles. It, you know, we didn't win many of them. Would have been nice to win a few more, but that was pretty satisfying. Like to win that one, just the way that season went, because we started bad and we had to go away, play Auckland, we had to go away for semi, go away for final, and managed to do it. And that was, you know, Graham Murray was the coach, but Dave Rennie, that was one of Dave Rennie's first ones as well, and he was assistant. But a lot of that was down to him.
Hey, the year 2000 was a new dawn for you, Christian, and John Alomwe joined you at the Wellington and the Hurricanes. At the Cape Town was the new year they built it, so there was some sellout crowds. Wayne Smith was the new All Blacks coach. Todd Blackadder was the captain, and you returned to fullback. What were some of the highs and lows of that 2000 season?
Geez, you got me there. Jonah, I always used to say, yeah, it's I never got to play against them a lot, which was quite good. We played them in 96 in that first game against the Blues, and I think that might have been the only time I actually played against them. So it was really nice when he came down and played with us, because he's better on your side than he was against us. But you, it was all new, you know. You just remember that stadium being built and playing our games, and it was just packed. And I think people always ask you, hey, like, you know, do you miss it? And I'm like, well, I don't miss the Monday to Friday, but you just miss the buzz about, you know, just running out onto the field, or the buzz of making a run and the crowd going up. I think that's what you miss. Monday to Friday trainings and all the stuff that goes with it. So that was cool, you know, when he came down. Obviously that obviously put a bit of a buzz in the air around Wellington with Jonah being on our side, and you know, we had a pretty good and an exciting team. Geez, mate, that's you know, all the games sort of merge into one. You kind of forget, because man, it's a long time ago. Like, yeah. People ask you now, you know, have you got jersey or training gear that you could do the charity or something? I'm like, man, it's like 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I've got nothing left.
So in that season, though, you scored in every single Tri Nations match, and you scored a number of tries. You played in that game of the century or whatever it was in Sydney. Yeah. But also, there's one particular try I wanted to ask you about, and it's probably the best ever tries I've seen from a set play from the line out at the Westpac Stadium, at Sky Stadium. Against the Aussies, which involved you, Tana and Jonah, and the forwards. Scott, I'm not too sure if you remember it, but I just wanted to check with you to see whether that was actually planned at training in the week leading up to it. It was a very intricate move. And for those who are watching, you'll understand what try that we're talking about here.
Oh yeah, no, definitely planned. That was an off the cuff, man. Lucky you guys done your research, because that 2000. Yeah, I remember that now. Now that was months in the making, that, because it was one of those moves, I guess you could only do it once. It's once you've done it, there's a couple of little variations off it. But I mean, I suppose the good thing about that is, yeah, I mean, I scored it in the end, but it was quite a good team try, you know, because everybody had to do their part. And I remember saying to Tana, I mean, I reckon that when you get it, you're just going to go straight through that hole. I'll run up on the outside, and, you know, he passed, and I'll run in and score. And it's pretty much how we called it, was how it panned out. So it's I mean, it worked out well, because we did have a couple of props, I think, out there as well, that with the shield. So it's hard to get them to get it all done right, but they managed to nail it. So that took a while. That wasn't a couple of weeks. It was that took a while, but it's, you know, it's cool when stuff like that happens. Like when you do training, you do it on the training pitch, and then when you get to the game, it just comes off exactly how you envisioned it. So probably one of the favourite team tries anyway.
So in 2001, you had a major knee injury and made yourself unavailable for the All Blacks end of year tour. But new coach at the time, John Mitchell, announced you were dropped alongside legends Tane Randall, Jeff Wilson, and Scott Robertson. How would you describe your relationship with Mitchell, and has he ever spoken to you about the reasons on why he dropped you?
Oh, not really, mate. I read it on a billboard or in the paper somewhere. I need to work on. I think my running, my catching, my passing, my tackling. There's about 5 things I had to work on. And I thought, geez, I've lasted quite a long time considering, I can't do all those 5 things. Mate, I don't know. It is what it was. I mean, at the time, he was a new coach. He'd come in, he wanted to go his direction, he wanted to stamp his mark. And, I mean, I had a knee injury. I think I always remember going down to Dunedin for one of the tests, and I did my knee at training and, said to the doc, mate, my knee, I can't run. So they sent me home that week back to Wellington, and I get a phone call on Saturday from Mitchell saying, how come you're not playing club rugby? And I was like, well, because I can't run. And then he basically said, he called the shots around here, and well, you're the All Black coach, you probably should be talking to the All Black doctor and getting that information, because I can't run, mate. So, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So that was basically it. And then, 2000 to 202, I think I only played 7 or 8 tests, and she was a bit of a different relationship with Mitch. But I mean, mate, I had a hold no grudges now. I mean, that was a long time ago. That's, as I said before, mate, I probably wasn't the first, and I definitely won't be the last where players get dropped or moved on, or new coaches come in and they like certain players. You just got to, I guess, roll with it. It's tough at the time. But it is what it is. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why I left to go to Ireland, because I just saw no future if those guys were sort of in those coaching roles here in New Zealand.
So in 2003, you ended up signing with Irish club Munster, like you mentioned, and you went on to play 44 games for them until your final game in 2007. You've spoken a little bit about Ireland with Cork and Limerick. How did you find your time at Munster?
Yeah, it started difficult because I went over there, played the last game in Wellington here, and did my shoulder, and was told here in New Zealand that it's not too bad, it should be right, it should heal in a couple of weeks. And I got over there and got a scan and ended up having a tear in my one of the ligaments in the shoulder. So I turned up their new signing, and I was out for 6 months. So I mean, fair play to the Munster and the people that made decisions, but they kept me on there. And but it was hard, You're away, new bunch of boys, and you turn up injured, and you got 4 months of rehab, and it was tough. But I mean, once we got in there, it was good fun. It's just different. Like Ireland's just good people, but mate, it rains a lot. It's cold. The rugby's just different. So coming from Wellington to there, massive difference. But that decision to go there was just made really, really quickly. Like it was probably a 2-week decision. Usually, probably when you go overseas, you take a bit more time. But I think Chris Latham had pulled out of his contract. So the coach at the time was in Aussie, and he pulled out, and then somehow my manager got hold of him, and so that decision was made within 2 weeks to go there. So I don't know, if I had my time over again, would I have made that decision that quick? Probably not. But I mean, mate, I wouldn't take it back now, because I met some pretty good people over there. And the only thing is, man, I just got heaps of injuries over there for whatever reason.
Hey, so since retiring from rugby, Christian, back in 2003, and we talked about it in our intro, you're doing a bit of property development and playing golf, which I'm sure you're probably about to turn professional or something soon, eh? What have you been up to lately?
Yeah, well, pretty much that. Like I came back and I took a bit of time off because the body was pretty banged up, so I just wanted to get that right. I mean, I got 4 kids, so I guess we started that when we came back as well. We had sort of 4 kids year after year. So they're a little bit sort of, the oldest is 12 now, youngest is 7. So yeah, I mean, I just got my body right, and I was just playing a lot of golf and getting back into the gym. So yeah, property brokers are a real estate company based out of Palmy. Sort of hit me up and see if I wanted to come do some stuff for them. So just selling commercial property, always been involved in sort of that sort of stuff, but now I'm just on the other side doing it. So we're based locally here now in Kapiti. And still playing heaps of golf. Luckily, all my injuries that I've had, I can still play golf, which is cool. So yeah, just want to try and enjoy life and have fun. You know, I know too many people, man, that are, you know, they get sick and they don't enjoy their lives, and shit happens, and people, you know, people pass away, and so yeah, you just want to make sure you have fun and enjoy it, because it can be taken from you pretty quickly.
Just looking back at your rugby career, who have been some of the key people you've learned from and looked up to the most?
Oh, I mean, we came in, and I mean, guys like Fitzpatrick, just the hard edge, you know, at the start. It was tough as a young guy coming in, and blokes, because I was still from the old era. You know, and then you got guys on the flip side that were just cruising, but been there a long time. And, you know, guys, Frank Bunce-Waddle Little, you know, man, they were just cruisy as, been around a long time, but man, just good bastards. And Michael Jones, you know, playing with that guy, I watched him in '87 at the World Cup, you know, when I was a young fella. Then you know, just stuff like that. Then you're sitting in the change room with them, and you run out onto the field with them. So I reckon that's pretty cool. The good thing about rugby, and it's happened a few times now. I think Damien McKenzie mentioned it. There's a photo of him and Richie McCaw when Damien was a young fella, and then he ended up bloody playing with him. So I think that's really cool, eh? Coaching wise, like seriously, like, you know, Dave Rennie, probably one of the best coaches I've had. Wayne Smith will be one of the best coaches. So you learn a lot, you know, through those guys.
So in your opinion, right now, who is the most exciting fullback in world rugby?
It's, yeah. Well now, man, Bodie's gone now. So he's in Auckland, so we won't go to him. I think since Geordie's come back, I think Geordie's gone pretty good. I mean, yep. But, you know, I always say there's still room in the game for a small man, eh? So that's why I like Damien. Like, he's just an excitement machine. And he's tough. You know, you see him get banged quite a lot, but he just gets back up. So I don't mind that. You know, it can't be all for the big guys. So it's good to see, you know, the little guy still doing his thing.
Hey, Christian, before we wrap it up, man, it's been an awesome podcast, but we've got a challenge for you. We do it with every guest. It's called Pick Up the Pace Challenge. And we're going to name one topic. And to that one topic, you've got 10 seconds to give us 9 answers.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, you'll get it. You'll kill it. So, Aradu, there you go, bro. All righty. Pick up the pace challenge, man. All righty. Here we go.
Give him an example.
All right, I'll give you an example then. I'll make it slightly easier for you. So if I said to you, name 9 makes of vehicles, you'd say Honda, Mazda, Ford, Hyundai, things like that. All righty. Here we go. Christian Cullen from the Kapiti Coast. Name for me, in 10 seconds, 9 suburbs in Wellington. Go.
Muramark, Rory, Kandala, Tony, Seatoon. I live there.
What about Wainui, bro?
Yeah, Wainui. Lower Hutt, Upper Hutt.
How many was that?
Yeah.
5. I counted 5. 5.
No,
It's a pass mark in full C.
I used to live in Kandala, so I tried to go work my way around, but I must drive around my eyes closed. I don't know.
When you get to bed tonight, you'll be thinking Johnsonville's Porirua Tower.
Yeah. Well, you think it's easy when you watch it on telly, on the morning show, but
that's it.
Pressure.
Hey, thanks heaps for your time, Christian. I just want to say my bro Magic, he's from Timaru, but I was brought up here in Wellington, and I grew up during the Christian Cullen era. So you're one of my rugby heroes. So it's been an absolute honour to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much. And we'll keep an eye on you on the golf course, and maybe see you on TV soon on the old professional golf.
off scratch, eh?
I wish.
No, thanks, bro.
Take care.
No. All right. Cheers, boys.